political.
Oh, we're getting into
You
it?
supporting Ukraine?
I have mixed feelings on this topic.
Yeah.
So to give a blanketed statement, I gotta agree when Trump's like, I want peace. I don't want to do anything that is going to extend fighting, that is going to get more people killed, that is going to cost more money. I don't want our soldiers giving their lives for something that isn't even involving us if we can at all avoid it.
All right, let's talk.
So I feel like some people say that's not in support of Ukraine.
All right, so let's talk ledger talk.
Okay.
So you own a home. Mm-hmm. You have some property, right? So your neighbor decides to, like, you got some back property that you don't really pay attention to. So the dude's like cutting your lawn, and they cut it for a little while, and they're like, I'm taking possession of the back half of your property. And then you're like, F you, you're not taking over it. Yes, I am. I'm taking over it. And then you've got this fight between two people. So third party neighbor comes over and says, dude, you're my neighbors. I don't want you to fight. I want peace here. So if peace means that you're like, Kelin, just give up the back part of it. They'll it'll end this. Nobody will have to be mad anymore. Come on, just give it up. Why are you not giving it up? So if Ukraine was taken to a certain point, right, and Russia did the taking, and somebody, an intervening force coming halfway through and saying, oh, hold up. I just want peace. You are going to feel like, hold up. No, that was my shit to begin with. They're the ones who tried to take it away from me. How dare you come in and decide the peace is more important than the ledger that's not freaking theirs.
Why would they come in and take it?
That is the question. And honestly, if we can get through the bullshit and find out what the fight's even about. Like, maybe your neighbors said that back in the 1800s, their parents owned that farmland and they were screwed out of that piece of land and it was properly theirs. And even though nobody's agreed with them, nobody's justified it, nobody granted it to them, they're stronger than you, and they got a mower that hits that spot better than you. So they're entitled to it. So they just decided, since nobody would acknowledge that that's their part of your property, they're just going to take it.
Are we sure this is over just taking territory? Because from what I've seen, it's more than that.
You're right, but it's the thing, like, if you were to talk to Native Americans, they're going to lay claim to something that they feel they're entitled to, and there's going to have people that disagree because they were conquered by other people. So if you're in the camp that if you conquer someone, your shit becomes theirs. So if they mow your lawn and they hit the obligations of now they have ownership of it, it's not right? But it's legal. It's part of what's been acknowledged by all people. So if you think that Russia was this, bastion of Europe forever, and because that they had financial hardships, that they end up losing territory to these other countries that they don't really acknowledge because it's a blemish on their history. And they're like, all right, well, we struggled and we allowed Ukraine to happen and Crimea to happen and all these little sub-territories, but they're really ours. And then they just go stake a reclaim of what they think they were entitled to. You need an arbiter, right? That's going to say, hold up, what territories, what timeline do we acknowledge that you live in Ohio and this was Shawshank territory, your home's on it, right? You're going to have a different opinion that you bought the home from the city, what the city did and what the township did and what the territory and whatever happened to you. That's not your problem. Today, that's your property. So Indian guy needs to say, that's mine, and you're going to say, that's mine. Who wins? Because it's a timeline we're arguing with, not necessarily legality.
So yeah, because here's some information that I was looking into, and disclaimer, this could be way off.
Theoretically, we'll listen to it.
All right, theoretically, if this is a thing, Putin basically says, Putin enters an agreement with NATO. I think, is who it was. Now, to my understanding, NATO originally existed to protect people from Russia. Was that not one of its...
From oppressive, antagonistic... You have a coalition of people who will
protect each other.
China.
This guy could be bad news, but we got each other's backs. So Putin initially entered in an agreement in the 90s as far as where borders lie, what NATO's going to do, and what was this whole thing that we agreed we will not move not 1 inch east. Have you heard this?
Yep.
Don't worry, Putin. You do you. We're going to do us. The line is where the line is, and we won't move. And everybody said great. And then we moved it. We went back on our deal, and we moved it. And Putin's like, wait. What the hell is this? Oh, well, that's happening. And then Putin comes and says, all right, how about this? Can I join NATO? Can we all work together and be in this together? And we'll kind of adopt your ways and just sort of all work together. And they're like, let me think. No. Why not? No. Because we exist to fight you. And if we're no longer fighting you, we're out millions of dollars and war is big business. So no, we'd rather just keep fighting you. You're not allowed to join NATO. And then Putin's like, you guys are looking shadier and shadier. Then not only do we move that inch and then some that we promised we wouldn't do, we then line up weaponry right along that border, right at Russia. And now Putin's like, what the F are you doing? You went back on our deal. You are taking over land you promised you wouldn't. And now you have weapons pointed at me and you won't let me join NATO. You're telling me I can't be in peace and agreements with you. So now what the hell am I supposed to do? I'm feeling a bit threatened here. So that's when Putin's like, psh, I'm done. You're clearly creeping in. I'm no longer feeling safe. I feel like you all are setting me up for something. So let me strike back. And now he strikes back. Here's a big war. People are dying. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey, America, we need more of your help that you got us into by going back on these deals. We need more. And we're like, whoa, we can't give you any more. We've already given you so much. Did we get you into this mess? But now we can't give you more. Let's give peace a chance. So now everyone's like, what the hell? What? So now if we do give you more people will die. More of our money is spent. We are now in a worse position. Putin's angrier because we've already sort of screwed him over once and now we're going to do it again. Or we try to make peace. We say, hey, all right, this has gotten out of hand. Everybody stop fighting. And Ukraine's like, what the F? Is it just me or are we the assholes in this?
No, what you're getting a sense of is when it comes to international thing, there is no hero. It's all villains. Like we play dirty politics no matter who we're dealing with for the interests of the United States. So do you think on Al Jazeera or another, propaganda machine that we're the assholes in their storyline? Absolutely. There's a whole lot of people that think that United States in Russia is big of a villain as Russia is in the United States. We're the asshole and they are the asshole. And so like you have all of these countries that are pitted against each other by the machine that is international politics. It's going to take someone
big business to have beef.
Huge business. But it's But okay, like the opposite, like the countervailing is that this is better than just colonialism, where Russia's like, I'm bigger and badder than you. I'm just going to take over your country. And I'm going to own more property and more minerals and more resources and take over more populations and whatever. We wouldn't want that version of it. So the international politics, as corrupt as it is, it's better than that. But people of intellect are going to know that this is kind of stupid, right?
Yeah.
We have countries fighting other countries that if they're a reasonable person that can intervene and say, let's stop it right now. Let's take your back half of your property and ignore all of your history, and let's just do fairness now. Let's hit the reset button. Would you be able to ignore the fact that back half of your property was stolen from you, from your neighbor, and some dude over here wants to come along and set what's rational today instead of what's 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 300 years ago? Like, who gets to win that debate? Nobody. So it's like the people who can make some money off of that are like, well, this is a for sure mathematical impasse, and I'm just going to make money by keeping that thing going.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's why it is such a heated, hot button thing when people want to get mad that Trump even talks to Putin. Why would you even talk to him? Putin bad, Zelensky good. And it's like, listen, there is a gray area here. It is not good versus evil as far as Zelensky and Putin, from what I've seen. I even heard back when 9/11 happened and we were attacked. You know who one of the first world leaders was to come to America, give condolences, and offer support? Putin was one of the first people to step up and be like, this was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm offering you support. But wait. But Putin's bad. Putin's a bad guy, right? Okay, well, we made a deal with him in the 90s. We promised this. He promised this. We went back on our deal. We said, screw you. We're not doing that. Putin's like, can we talk about this? No, Putin bad. We don't talk to Putin. What? The fact that we're not allowed to even consider talking to the person that could freaking end us all if he wanted to is insane to me. That it's like you can't get them, you can't get them in a room, you can't even try to talk peace, because while yes, absolutely, if someone encroached on my backyard and my property and took it from me and I got mad and I wanted to fight them, at some point, when is the fight now no longer able to be won? If I know I can't win this, I got a shitty deal, I think my neighbor who sold me my property knew this was going to happen and got me into a bad deal, and now I have no way of winning. Do I want to, one, get a bunch of people killed over it, or two, keep going at it and try to work with the guy that gave me the shitty deal in the first place?
Outsiders would say I'm a pragmatist and I'm going to just look at the math that's ahead of me, look at the most probable scenarios and say, I know you're going to be mad about the property that you lost, but it's part of making sure that this doesn't get any worse than it actually is. And then you're going to have the other people that are like, the ledger people who are going to be like, no, we got to right this wrong. Putin can't just come around and take land from other people. Somebody's got to stand up for them. Somebody's got to win that debate.
But when did Putin take land from someone?
The land was lost from original Russia.
This is why there's Russian-speaking people in Ukraine.
Yes.
So this was this was like before the 90s.
Yeah, your snapshot. How far are you willing to go back?
Yeah.
You're talking about the landowner behind you, and the Cherokees talking about the land that wasn't yours in the first place. Like, what timeline are you willing?
Well, it sounds to me that if that were the timeline, if even many years ago before the 90s, before this agreement, there was beef and there was issue and land was drawn, to me, that became moot when you both signed an agreement to end that beef. We said, we won't do this.
I'll listen
you
to that.
don't do
Absolutely.
this. Fresh start starting now. And then we said, nah, fuck you. We're not.
So what do you think that a new fresh start where we give part of the land up to Russia that's not going to be 10 years from now, another engagement to take even more of it? If we're willing, if we teach everybody that, you know, through aggression, you're able to take whatever land you want, haven't we just invited the next incursion into another territory that Russia thinks that they're entitled to anyway?
But I don't think this war that we're in now was over taking land. I think it was over security. I think it was land was already...
If it was on its own without Crimea, right, then I would say you might be right. This is a one-off. This is a dispute between two people. But this southerly movement towards adopting back into land that was lost ages ago This is a long term. Like China and Russia play the long game. We play the short game, right? So China knows that they can outlast us. So they're playing the 20-year game, and Russia is playing the 20-year game. So they might deal with the 10-year loss of, how does the world feel about Russia anyway? They're not giving anything up by being the villain in this. They're taking back land, and they're about to get it by what we're willing to give up for the sake of peace. They'll take that. That's a victory for Putin. So again, if we're going to play the short game against the long game, we kind of win on the short term and lose on the long term. So if we give up portion of Ukraine to Russia, what do you think that 10 years from now, that there's not another Yugoslavia, not even a country anymore, but another territory that's like, all right, we're going to play this game again. Here's the template. We can take over a portion of it. The United States is going to intervene, give us the 10% that we're looking for anyway, net gain on our part. And all we had to do was take the short-term impulsive country that was looking at the last 10 years and play the 30-year game against them.
So I know someone that sent me their tinfoil hat theory on
let's
all
go.
this.
Let's go!
This person is very much like you, but can't speak out because of their job. If they give their opinion,
speak out
they can,
because I don't care.
I told him, I said, well, send me the info because this is our job. He has this theory. I'm assuming you've seen all the media coverage about the Oval Office heated exchange between Zelensky, Trump, and all that.
That was perfect, by the way.
What?
That exchange was perfect.
How so?
Well, you say what you're going to say, and then I'll add to it.
So he has a tinfoil hat theory. That was staged.
100% it was staged.
Staged for the cameras so that Zelensky could then quietly sign a peace agreement, but look like he went down fighting. He wasn't going to accept
all
it.
Theatrics.
All these things.
Politics is theatrics.
Yeah, because the first thing I said when I saw that video,
we're going to say the same thing.
Even
I know
more
it.
than my first reaction is, how many cameras are in this room? Look at the cameras.
Should this not be a meeting that should be in private?
Yes. Everybody performs when they are being watched. Everybody. It is a natural phenomenon. You can't help it. You have literally a whole room of people with mics in your face and cameras, and egos are going to come out, and things cannot be said when the entire world is watching. And I think even Zelensky at one point was like, I'd love to discuss this further. I appreciate the press. I'm all about open democracy, but I think we need to discuss a few things in private. I was like, hell yeah, you do. This is a circus.
Yes.
This is nothing but people performing for the cameras.
100%.
All of them.
But everybody won because of that theory. Or the theatrics played into the fact that the United States looked very strong and standing up to it, which is the Ukraine mess.
Depending on which side of the aisle you are on.
But it looked strong. Like from an objective observer, they weren't taking any shit, and they weren't going to be the pushover free ATM machine that sends out to Ukraine. So that was the messaging on the United States side. On the Ukrainian side, it's also a win for them because there were 5, 6, 7 other nations, UK, were able to then stand up and be the heroes that we're going to stand in the United States position and we're going to be there for Ukraine. Both sides, there was no downside to this.
Did I not just see this morning these other European countries are telling him, let's at least temporarily take a peace deal? Did they not recently say that? Or they're encouraging that, I guess?
But for the short term, everybody, the UK is going to take a power position because now they've been handed the baton that if United States isn't going to do it, we'll do it. We'll put boots on the ground. We'll put military armaments in place. We'll fund it, whatever. And so the UK is like, oh, nationalism, we're there for Ukraine. So everybody freaking wins. Like, if you don't see the theatrics in it, you're out there. Like,
yeah.
you don't know what's going on if you don't see the theatrics.
Oh, yeah. And it's just so, like, I don't even fully understand. I have a lot of friends on Facebook that immediately went to the whole Trump's an asshole. This is embarrassing. He's embarrassing us. And I even like legit said, like, what is it you think he should have done? I don't know. What do you think he should have done? And
well, these are Trump haters that were already Trump haters. These aren't people that were before totally supportive Trump and like, oh, deal breaker here.
No, they're just finding another reason to hate him.
Thing. Yeah.
And I said, but what is it you expected him to do? What does support Ukraine mean to people? Is it just keep giving them money, give them weapons, give them our military? I don't understand what else they think we should do. And if it is give them our military, are you picking up the gun and going? Is your child, is your family member going over there?
Right.
Because I'm pretty sick of my family members going to do this. If you want to do it, you go do it. If not, maybe we should talk to bad guy.
Okay, so an alien comes down right now and says, all right, I don't have any dog in the fight. I don't care about any of you. I'm just going to make sure that you simple, primitive apes don't destroy themselves. And they're looking back and looking at all the measurements. What would the alien decide that should happen in this whole conflict?
Alien, no skin in the game.
No skin in the game, doesn't fucking care. Is not going to hear your sob story. Don't care about history. The right now. You guys need to have prosperity. You need to not die. And you need this thing to end.
You need a peace agreement.
Peace agreement?
Yeah. How else are we going to keep people from dying? An endless war, and God forbid it gets worse, and we feed the industrial military complex, and we make politicians get richer who have no skin in the game as far as them fighting. If we feed into this war, it's going to be more casualties, more money, more chaos, more death, more destruction. If we don't...
Okay, so here, the alien is not going to allow a one-sided agreement where we give peace, but we don't get something in exchange for you lost your back half, right?
Yeah.
So the alien's going to be like, well, that was obviously Kelin's, and I don't really care about your reason why you don't think it's Kelin's. If Kelin gets something for her back half that is equal in value to what she's giving up, Kelin will be happy and she'll be able to move on. If the person taking the thing, objectively in the wrong there, makes concessions, but is also able to move along, then we get more time, right? So that we don't have casualties of people who they weren't responsible for any of it. Not a single person dying was responsible for the taking or the giving of any of this property. They're just willing to fight for the country that flag is on their mast.
Yeah.
100%. So the alien's going to say, this is insanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's stop the fighting first. Let's get rational minds involved and make some concessions. So if Russia gets mineral rights to Ukraine but gives back some of the territory, like there's going to be some concessions in there that doesn't make anybody happy. The people that say Russia's in the right, those people say that Ukraine's in the right. It's going to be middle ground that makes zero people happy.
I saw Trump's press secretary one time made a comment and said, when a good deal has been made, both parties tend to leave a little unhappy. Would you agree with that?
Or either both parties are extremely happy or both parties are very unhappy. That is a good deal when either there's shared disappointment or shared exuberance.
Yeah. And in a situation like this, I think it's going to be pretty dang hard to have shared exuberance. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, you can say the same thing about Gaza. Gaza is going to be 2.0 of this same exact discussion. It's a shithole dumpster fire that there's an end that is not very likely. And all alternatives are unpopular and really not supported by anyone. So you want to get this one under, behind us? That one's the next one. And the people who benefit from this kind of chaos are going to make a ton of money through the chaos.
Yeah.
We have to shore that up so that nobody benefits from the chaos, or else why... if you make a lot of money, if somebody's at war with someone, what's going to stop you from continually making more war? So you can make more money. There's nothing.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things when I got real into like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. That was one of the biggest points they kept driving home is this war complex. And it was like, as long as we continue to make people rich off of war and fighting, we will always have war 100%. And fighting.
And it is still today, right? I use the example of student loans, right? And this is the insanity that the math. Wrap your head around this analogy. If you believe that people issuing student loans are creating oppressive loans to people who will never be able to escape them, and they're so bad, we need to alleviate the loans and give you a free pass. But at the same time, we gave more student loans today. Those two ideals cannot exist at the same time. How can you issue a new oppressive student loan and let someone escape the student loan in the same fucking day? You have to shore up and remove what's causing the oppression first, and then have remediation, right? So if your basement, I said remediation, so I'm thinking mold all of a sudden. Mold remediation. So if your basement is wet and it's creating mold, and I bring someone to clear up the mold, but I don't clear up what's creating the mold, haven't I just made it a really good deal for the mold mitigation people?
Yep.
That's what it is. This is the mold of financial gain by chaos. There's no interest for you creating no chaos because there's money in chaos and there's no money in non-chaos. So there's no incentive to get you to make it boring as shit.
Yeah. And what ticks me off, the two biggest things that tick me off the most are, one, those profiting off of war and chaos and death and destruction. And I always go to this, and the media that helps them.
They're in on it.
Allows them to do it. When I saw the headlines of that Oval Office exchange, I'm like, how are you even a news source organization? How do you put the most bias, the most ridiculous headline? It's nobody can think for themselves anymore. You can't have any headline that just says,
here's what happened.
Oval Office meeting with these three people. Here's some information about it. It's got to be Trump berates Zelensky for an hour, or Trump won't back down, blah,
because
blah, blah.
Here's the thing. Those people who cover the president in the Oval Office are superstars.
Yeah.
They want to be just as much as a story as the person they're covering.
Yep.
If you didn't know any of the media personalities' names, that would be good media. But
Yeah.
because they're so enamored with the attention they get from covering the story, it will always be about the headline and themselves, not about the news that they're covering.
You said something way back when we were still going through the election, before we had even voted yet. You had said the media needs Trump to win.
Yeah.
Because what the heck else are they going to talk about? Can you imagine if Trump was quiet, didn't do interviews, didn't say much, didn't have cameras around, didn't anything? If things just worked out and went well, the media would be screwed. They have to have something because negative news sells and it makes them money. And the more that they can put a negative spin on something, the more attention they get. And it's so ridiculous.
All right, so let's just say that we took all of the people covering the president and we kicked all of them out. Term limits, they're gone. And they have to fill the press room with all 100% unknowns. People who, small blogs and whatever.
It started.
Okay?
Yeah.
So let's just say they kicked all of them out.
Okay.
And it's just all new people from every unknown publication. Number one, whoever's covering the president now would immediately get the same attention that the old guys did. Mm-hmm. In the short term, they would say, I'm idealistic. I'm going to cover this with objectivity and just tell the news, right? Mm-hmm. How long before the news sources just became the center starlets and the center stars of telling the news and make it more about their headline than about the news that they were covering? It would be about 6 months before we just recreated the problem was in that newsroom over again.
Yeah, because what would set them apart from their competition?
It would all be the same.
If everybody just reported the facts,
Nobody would pay attention.
yeah, they could say, "Well, I'll just turn on any
Because
any
you
channel."
want to go to the news and find somebody who's agreeing with you and saying the same stuff as you, and that's who I'm latching into.
Yep, absolutely. It's so funny. I mean, we're seeing it with RFK too all the time. They want to push one narrative, and then they'll get some pushback. It's so interesting. I actually just saw, it was CBS reported that RFK Jr. is encouraging the measles vaccine, saying this one could be pretty important. And I went, holy shit, I can't believe they admitted that. I can't believe they did that. Because all I keep seeing is how he had questioned it, and he said he wasn't sure, and measles was something they got as a kid, and it wasn't a big deal. But the first thing RFK said when he was elected in his position, or he was appointed his position, was, I will always be open even if I don't know. And if someone gives me more information, great, I will go with it. And to me, he has always done that. He has always said, I don't know about this. I'm a little leery about this. And if the information shows that it's dangerous, I think this is dangerous. Or if information says this is not dangerous, this is a good thing, he's like, okay, guys, this may be a good thing. He's always been open, but no, the media is going to be like, anti-vaxxer, he's a danger to all of us, blah, blah, blah. And then when I see someone go, oh, maybe he's changing his tune on something, good for freaking you for being the bigger person that says, hey, actually, he's not telling you not to get that. He might have at one point, but now he's considering it because he's getting more information. But if everybody did that, if all the news organizations said, oh, well, here's the facts, here's what's happening, someone got more information, we might be looking at this differently. Nope, boring, and we're all dumb, and all we want to do is see death, destruction, drama. Who's going to have the negative headline? Who's going to scare me into reading their article? Who's going to enrage me into hating this politician? It's so rigged.
You know what's interesting? Like, if you go back and I consider what's happening in our lifetime an actual revolution. All right, if you go back to the founding and when the colonies were breaking away from England, the type of stuff that was happening to the people who were breaking out and just doing something different, and how much opposition they had to the things that they were saying, and how death was every day, a consideration that you were going to be assassinated or you're going to be killed by the king or whatever. All of that stuff is uniform. And to be able to live through a revolution where people are stepping outside, if it weren't for Tulsi and Elon and RFK Jr. and so many people that are willing to step outside of the status quo, take the fire from the opposition and still hold their ground while that's happening, and have a majority of the support of people to be able to hold that ground, it's going to be a very, very short-lived. Do you know during the revolution, how many of the people that stepped outside lived to tell the story? Were none. Like, you were killed, you were destroyed. The status quo made sure you paid the consequences for stepping outside of the status quo. And that is, all of these people that we're talking about were willing to sacrifice their existence on this planet to be able to be a change maker in part of a revolution. How long, like, we're 2 months into it, how long can they hold out and take the fire from everybody who's like, hold up, you are threatening my sweet deal. You're threatening my government money, my contracts from the endless wars. All of those people have an interest in you not effing up the game that they're playing. I listened to Elon Musk on Joe Rogan over the weekend. And there was a portion of it about corruption. If you haven't, it's probably the last 30 minutes of the interview with Joe Rogan.
Was he on again, or this is the
Another
older one? He was again?
Again.
Oh, I'll
Last
find
week,
it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Last 30 minutes of the interview, they were talking about the actual corruption. And Rogan asked him, tell me about this corruption. Give me an illustration. And Elon said, if I told you about the corruption, they would assassinate me today. And I need to stay in this game to be able to do the things that are right below that level of corruption, or else I'm just going to die and I'm going to be no good to anybody. And that message was received that there is even, from what we know, we feel is bad, right?
Yep. And there's two kinds of people. One will take that and go, oh shit, I don't blame him. Of course there is. And the other, it's like, of course he would say that because he didn't find anything, because he's pushing his own agenda, because he wants to profit off of everybody else, so he's lying.
But there's a level of what he found in what he's been exposed to that said, if I do this, it's great for the country and it's good for the people and it's great, but it's also terrible for me. We brought up the example last week. If it meant that you exposed the Epstein list and 400 people got washed out of government, everybody in jail, Congress is wiped out because everybody's complicit in this. We now are looking up to elected officials, and more than 75% of them are now missing from action because they're now in prison for what they've done. Would you be willing to pay the consequences of having the United States be in complete disarray because so many of them were complicit and guilty of the things that you set out for? Would you take the not knowing, but at least a functioning government, over a government that's been decimated by the truth that was discovered by the investigation? That's really the contemplation.
Vulnerable.
Left completely vulnerable. And so you're picking two bad choices. That's the theme of this show, is that no matter what we go into, it's so bad that either you pick the bad choice that is bad or pick the bad choice that is really bad. But the really bad one means that you can start to mend things. And the less bad ones means that you'll live another day and it'll be equally as corrupt, and everybody will be in power and they'll be collecting their checks, and you'll have something to complain about and the media will have something to write about. But then the page just turns. It's another day just like the last.
Yeah, and the same person who was sharing the tinfoil hat theory with me about the Oval Office exchange being staged, he was telling me that Zelensky and his family have been threatened to sign that peace deal. They're like, you will not sign a peace deal or we will kill you and your whole family. And so could this be a stage to make it look like he's fighting and he doesn't want to do it so that he can then get out of Dodge?
If a conspiracy theorist can talk to the public and say, everything you are going to see from this point on is theatrics, none of it is freaking real. And if you buy into any single sentence or single paragraph, all you're doing is buying into the narrative that is being delivered to you. I want to tell everybody to take a step back, look at it from a much larger distance, and don't listen to one excerpt or one headline to like push you on one side or the other. Be objective.
Be objective. I either will disregard all mainstream and just find little bits of pieces of information from people that don't have anything to gain. Or if that's not possible, if I can't find other third-party sources, I will watch both and see where the truth could lie. What are they saying? What are they saying? Two totally different things. So there's got to be some truth there. And I remember I really started to sort of distrust the media and even what the government would share with us years and years ago when my husband was active duty. He was in an incident overseas somewhere. And he told me about what happened. Specifically, we did this, they did this happened, this fight broke out, here's how it ended, here's everything that went into it. And I said, oh, wow. And he's like, read this. And he gives me a newspaper article. And I read it and I'm like, that's not what happened. And he's like, sure isn't. Not at all what happened. But the American people feel more comfortable thinking that happened than what really happened. So they all just go with it. And that's where I saw 100% a person said, this did not happen this way, but we are letting the American people believe it did. I went, I'll never trust another news organization again. Because there is so much we don't know, which why I get so fired up. To me, the biggest injustice is trying to silence anyone that questions anything. And I don't care if it's about the war. I don't care if it's about vaccines. I don't care if it's about anything political. If somebody says, hey, wait a minute, I have questions. Can we look into this a little more? and your response is, F you, you're the bad guy. How could you not just believe what we said? You're a terrible person. That's the side I am not on.
Hit record.
Okay. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Cal?
Good, good.